Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second. What if I told you that the couple earning $120,000 a year is more financially stressed than the single person earning $65,000? Not sometimes, not in rare cases, regularly, like statistically, structurally, almost predictably stressed. You'd probably say, that makes no sense. Two salaries, two people working, more money coming in. How does that add up to more financial pain? Well, that's exactly what we're going to walk through today. And by the end of this video, you're not going to feel guilty. You're not going to feel lectured. You're going to feel like someone finally explained something that's been quietly bothering you for years. This is called the two-income trap. And it's not a personal failure. It's a pattern. A very well-documented, very predictable pattern. Let's talk about it. Let's start with Sofia and Daniel. Sofia is from Toronto, Canada. Daniel is from the same city. They met in their late 20s, fell in love, moved in together. Both have decent jobs. Sofia works in marketing, takes home about $3,400 a month after taxes. Daniel works in logistics coordination, takes home about $3,200 a month after taxes. Combined, they're bringing in $6,600 a month. That sounds really comfortable, right? That's almost $80,000 a year take home. They're not rich, but they're not struggling. Or at least, that's what it looks like from the outside. Now let me show you what their monthly life actually looks like. Rent for a two-bedroom apartment in a mid-range Toronto neighborhood? $2,400 a month. They need two bedrooms because, well, one is the bedroom and one is the office/guest room/we need our own space room. That's normal. That's not extravagant. Two cars, because Toronto's transit doesn't reach both their workplaces efficiently. Car payments, insurance, fuel, $1,100 a month combined. Groceries, household basics, $600. Phone plans, two of them, $160. Internet, streaming subscriptions, $120. Student loan repayments, Sofia still has some left from her degree, $280. Credit card minimum payments, because life happened a couple of years ago when the balance never quite got cleared, $190. Now let's add that up. $2,400 plus $1,100 plus $600 plus $160 plus $120 plus $280 plus $190. That's $4,850 out of $6,600, which leaves them with $1,750 for everything else. Eating out occasionally, clothing, dentist, gym, a weekend trip once in a while, gifts, emergencies. $1,750 for two adults. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this is the part most people don't see. There's something that happens when two people are earning money. Something quiet, something that nobody really warns you about. The cost of working goes up. Let me explain what I mean. When Sofia was single and renting a studio, she paid $1,400 in rent. She had one car, or sometimes no car, she managed. She cooked simple meals. She didn't feel pressure to keep up with a lifestyle that matched two incomes. Her fixed costs were lower. Her flexibility was higher. Now, she and Daniel together have locked in $4,850 in fixed monthly obligations. And here's the critical thing about fixed costs. They don't go down when things get hard. If Daniel loses his job tomorrow, the rent is still $2,400. Both car payments are still due. The student loan doesn't pause. The credit card doesn't care. They've built a life sized for two salaries, which means one salary alone can't hold it up. Now let's bring in someone else. Let's go to Callum, Edinburgh, Scotland. Callum is 34, single, works in IT support for a mid-sized company. He takes home about £2,100 a month after tax and national insurance. That's roughly comparable in lifestyle terms, tight but manageable in a mid-range UK city. His rent? A one-bed flat, bit further out from the center, £850. Car? He doesn't have one. uses buses and occasionally rents one for weekends, £60 in transport. Groceries and household, £320. Phone, internet, subscriptions, £95. Student loan, in the UK it comes out of payroll automatically, about £85 a month at his income level. Total fixed obligations, £1,410. Out of £1,200, that leaves him £690 a month in discretionary money. Now, is Callum richer than Sofia and Daniel? Absolutely not by income. But is Callum more financially resilient? Yes, significantly. If Callum loses his job, his life doesn't collapse overnight. He has one set of obligations to cover, not two. He hasn't structured his life around income that requires both streams to stay intact. That difference? That's the trap. Now, I'm not telling you Sofia and Daniel made bad decisions. Every choice they made individually seemed reasonable. The apartment, reasonable. The cars, practical, given their commute. The lifestyle, nothing excessive. No luxury holidays, no designer clothes. So why are they in a trap? Because of something called lifestyle calibration. When your income goes up, your brain recalibrates what normal looks like. This isn't weakness, this isn't stupidity, it's deeply human. When Sofia was earning alone, $1,400 rent felt like a stretch. When she and Daniel combined incomes, $2,400 felt appropriate. They weren't being reckless, they were being rational, based on the income they could see. The problem is they calibrated their fixed costs to their peak combined income, and fixed costs are almost impossible to reduce quickly once they're in place. There's also something called the two-income premium. When two people are both working full-time, certain costs automatically increase. Childcare, if they have or plan to have children, can easily run $1,500 to $2,500 a month in major cities, in the US, in Canada, in Australia, easily. In the Philippines, in cities like Manila, it's lower in absolute numbers, but as a percentage of income, it hits families just as hard. Convenience food increases because two busy people don't have as much time to cook from scratch. A second vehicle almost always becomes necessary. Work clothing, grooming, commuting costs, all double. These aren't frivolous expenses. They are the cost of both people working. And here's the paradox that Elizabeth Warren, yes, the U.S. Senator, identified in her book co-written with her daughter back in 2003. The second income often costs more than people realize once you subtract the expenses it generates. In some households, particularly those with young children, the second income net of its associated costs is surprisingly small, sometimes just a few $100s a month, sometimes in certain situations with high childcare costs, nearly zero. People don't realize this because they see the gross number on the paycheck, not the net economic gain.
Now, I want to be very careful here. I'm not saying people should stop working. I'm not saying anyone, woman, man, anyone should leave their career. Work has meaning beyond money. Independence matters. Career development matters. That is not the point of this video. The point is this. Most two-income households make financial decisions as though both incomes will always exist, and they structure their entire financial life, their fixed costs, their mortgages, their car payments, their lifestyle baseline, around a number that requires perfect conditions to maintain. And life does not offer perfect conditions. Let me show you the long-term math. Sofia and Daniel are saving, on a good month, maybe $400 to $500. At that rate, in 10 years, they've saved roughly $55,000 to $65,000. That sounds okay, until you remember that they've had two professional incomes for an entire decade, and their savings rate, as a percentage of gross income, is hovering around 6 to 7%. Financial researchers generally suggest that a savings rate of 15 to 20% is what creates actual long-term security. They're less than half of that, not because they're irresponsible, because their fixed cost structure consumes almost everything before the saving decision even happens. Now compare this to someone who made different structural choices early. Let's look at Roisín from Cork, Ireland. Same age as Sofia, similar income level, but Roisín made one key decision in her late 20s. She kept her fixed costs low even when her income rose. When she got a raise, she didn't upgrade her apartment. When she started earning more, she didn't add a car payment. She kept her monthly fixed obligations at roughly 45 to 50% of her take-home pay. Everything above that, she invested. Slowly, quietly, consistently. Low-cost index funds, a small PRSA pension top-up, a modest emergency fund she kept growing. 10 years later, Roisín doesn't have a flashy life, but she has options. She can take a lower-paid job she actually enjoys because she's not structurally dependent on maximum income. She can handle an unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, a broken boiler, without going into debt. She's not wealthy, not by any dramatic definition, but she is free in a way that Sofia and Daniel genuinely are not. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sofia and Daniel look more prosperous from the outside. Bigger apartment, 2 cars, slightly nicer things, but Roisín is building actual financial resilience, quietly, without Instagram posts about it. I want to step back for one moment, because I think it's important to say something clearly. This isn't just about individual choices. There are structural reasons why 2-income households end up in this position. Housing costs in cities like London, Toronto, Vancouver, Sydney, and Manila's premium areas have risen dramatically faster than wages. A couple in 1985 could buy a reasonable home on one modest income. That is simply not true in most major cities today. The housing market has, in many cases, effectively priced in 2 incomes, meaning the market assumes both partners work and prices reflect that. So, couples are pushed into buying or renting at levels that genuinely require 2 salaries to sustain. This is a systemic pressure, not a personal failing. Similarly, childcare costs in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia have risen so sharply that they now represent a genuine financial crisis for working families. The average cost of full-time childcare in major U.S. cities runs between $15,000 and $30,000 per year, per child. That's not a lifestyle choice. That's a structural tax on working parents. So when I say the 2-income trap, I'm not pointing fingers at people. I'm pointing at a system that made 2 incomes feel like abundance, and then quietly designed itself to consume both of them.
So, what does someone who understands all this actually do differently? They don't do anything dramatic. They don't quit their jobs. They don't move to the countryside. They just think one step earlier than most people. Before they sign a lease or take on a mortgage, they ask, can we afford this on one income, or are we betting both are permanent? Before they add a second car payment, they ask, is this a need? Or is this a cost of a lifestyle we haven't fully examined? When one income increases, they don't automatically increase fixed spending. They let the surplus build, quietly, before making any structural changes. They understand that flexibility is worth more than a nicer apartment. They know that a savings rate matters more than a salary number. They're not minimalists. They're not extreme savers. They're just honest about the true cost of the life they're building. And maybe the most important thing, they never fully depend on income they can't guarantee. Because a job can end, a contract can be terminated, a health situation can change everything. The couple that can survive on one income, even temporarily, has an almost unfair advantage in life. Not because they're earning more, but because their structure doesn't punish them when reality arrives. So let's come back to Sofia and Daniel, and Callum, and Mei-Ling and Andres, and Roisín. None of them are bad with money. None of them are making wild, irresponsible choices. They're all just living inside systems and pressures that are very, very real.
But the ones who end up with actual security, not the appearance of it, are the ones who noticed the trap before it fully closed, not after 5 years of 2 incomes and nothing to show for it, not after the first redundancy scare or the first medical bill that wiped the emergency fund. Before. The 2-income trap isn't about earning more. It's about understanding that more income does not automatically mean more security. Sometimes, if you let it reshape your entire cost structure, it just means more to lose. And that, quietly, is the most important financial lesson most people are never taught. If this video made you think, even slightly differently, about how you're building your financial life, that's all I wanted. No dramatic action required. Just a little more awareness, a little more honesty with the numbers, and maybe one conversation with someone you trust about what your fixed costs actually look like. That's the whole thing. If you found this useful, a like really does help this reach more people who might need it. And if you want more calm, honest conversations about money, the kind without hype or guilt, subscribe. We'll be here. Take care of yourselves.